Hey traders, Raghee here. Welcome to another episode of Charts and Coffee. Great to see everyone. All right, so we're going to take a look at the markets together here, and we're going to take a look at some charts, and we're going to drink some coffee. All right, so first a sip, and off we go. All right, gang. So we are in the aftermath of the Federal Reserve's decision on, well, what their opinion of the markets are. Look, all we need to do to take anything away from Wednesday's presser and statement is very few changes were made to the previous statement. So they're not changing their mind in any considerable way. Powell's sizable FOMC foot is firmly on the gas pedal. Taper is not a discussion. Asset purchases are still full steam ahead, and monetary policy is still wide open throttle accommodative. Gang, the only thing that Federal Reserve did not do, the only thing Powell did not do yesterday was give us his S&P target. Trust me, though, it's higher than where it is right now. So with that being said, if the Federal Reserve tells us to buy, as the great Stan Druckenmiller says, the only thing we all really need to pay attention to is, the Federal Reserve policy tone, and that is absolutely still supporting higher highs in stonks. Okay, gang. All right. So a lot of folks, email me asking, what's the takeaway from yesterday's Fed? You know that button on what do you call it? Mad Money. That buy. That was pretty much it. He could have just punched that for 45 minutes. Okay. I'm not saying just recklessly do it. Look at the outperforming sectors. Look at where we might see some rotation and some bargain hunting. We're looking at that firmly in some things like energies. The crude oil OPEC meeting is behind us. We were firmly bullish going into that. So lots to look at. A very exciting time in the markets, gang. All right. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into some questions here. And I wanted to ask, what is the target for a 1, 2, 3 reversal or continuation pattern? Oh, okay. Very cool. Very cool question. And did you have a specific symbol? We could talk about the one that I've been discussing in, say, bonds, TLT. So the way that I'll typically do that, let me turn my darn phone down. The way that I like to do that is, oh, by the way, has anyone bought the new iPhone 12? Just out of curiosity. All I need is a good reason to upgrade my favorite toy. All right, so a lot of people are buying those apples. We saw what the earnings did yesterday. All right, so let's take a look at TLT. So this is the way that I've done it for most of my career. And a really easy tool to use would be Darvis. In other words, what are those previous support and resistance levels that we've seen before? What are gaps, recent highs? 143.20 would be an interesting level. Another thing you can do is look at the last major move and pull a Fibonacci on that one. So there's not a magical different process than what I say teach in the, for example, the sector secrets, or when we talk about the targets in the futures room with the swing trades that I share with you all in the premium video. There's not a different process for that per se. What it is that I'm going to look at, again, think of it this way. We talk about the volume ledges like this. What is the next level the market can grab and hold on to? The same level that to the way path higher that we grab onto is also a minor obstacle. So in other words, the same level that could be a little bit of a ceiling is eventually going to be the floor. So we just need to look for those ceilings, and those are going to come by gap closes, Darvis levels, Fibonacci levels, previous highs and lows, things of that nature. So it's this volume ledges. So it's going to be the same process for me as I would look for targets in any market. Where are those levels sitting? what are those potential obstacles? I mean, think obstacles. You don't have to get too fancy with technical analysis. Just look at where those obstacles are. Okay, let's see. Sachin, you bought one for your wife, the Pro Max. It's 0.2 bigger than the old 11 Pro Max, right? I'm all for a bigger phone. I do probably 80+% of my trading on the iPhone. Almost, I'll even my day trades, because they're not rat-a-tat-tat, slinging trades. I put a lot of orders on my phone, so slightly bigger one suits me just fine. All right, Bob, you got the 12. Oh, okay. I heard it's got the A14 chip, slightly bigger. The camera, I saw Dolby and the camera's amazing on these things. I take a lot of pictures on my phone. All right, cool. Thanks for the heads up. I appreciate that. All right. Did I get my confirmation on? Oh, sorry, I missed this question on LMT, and then we'll get to the XLE question. So, Stefan, what are my thoughts on Lockheed? Lockheed's gone yellow, but the trend that preceded the yellow was certainly green. So we like that a lot. What I would say for Lockheed, let's do this, because we haven't done this in a little while. Let's go do a reverse, right? Who is Lockheed hanging out with? Who is Lockheed hanging out with? So let's just do a reverse search. And I know a lot of you already know how to do this. So what's going to pop up? I think a lot of you know what's going to pop up. ITA and XLI. ITA, XLI. All right, so let's go back on over to LMT. Let's take a quick peek at ITA. Let's take a quick peek at XLI. When you do that, you realize that Lockheed at the moment is a bit of a laggard. Not that it's not viable, but it's definitely a bit of a laggard. So then I'm going to jump on over here. This is the ITA multi-chart. And what I'll do now is I'll take a look at anything else that might look slightly better than Lockheed. Well, a couple come to mind, or a couple come to eye right away. NOC and LXH. Yeah, so I would say L3 should be a little bit less expensive than Lockheed. So sure, LMT is fine. And I'm actually going to jot down LXH. Actually, I'm going to jot down LXH because that might be a good one to watch. So sticky note, LXH. So that one, I don't want to see something as out of sync. See, I mean, Lockheed's a little out of sync, and it's had a hard time gaining some traction since earnings. That could be problematic. Not that it won't bounce. I think there's a good chance of it. Sitting in a volume ledge, sitting inside the wave. There's a lot to like about that. But just be careful. So yeah, I think both Lockheed, but I think LXH comes to mind as well. So thanks for the question. All right. So lots of yes on the 12s. Thank you. Good to know. Okay. So next up is that question on XLE. Okay. So am I getting confirmation on XLE? Are we seeing some sector rotation? I think we're already starting to see this. Remember, so a lot of you that are in Sector Secrets, the mastery, you guys know that, we're long MPC, SLB, and XLE. XLE is Chevron and Exxon, top two weighted names within this ETF. Sector rotation is what? Sector rotation really is what's overbought right now. What don't institutions, managers, people that move some size, what don't they want to buy at new higher highs? And then where can they go bargain hunting? XLE in a reflationary and reopening, got both the re's working for them. Lagging behind, it was just tick-tock, a matter of time. And one of the catalysts that we were hoping to see, both from a future standpoint, because we're long crude and RBOB gasoline, and from the oil stocks side of things, was, can we see some renewed interest in a market that was considered too consensus? I mean, look how parabolic it went through February. It was considered too consensus. It was considered overcrowded, and then boom, it lost its swagger. But sector rotation is where that swagger comes back. Yeah, I think there's a pretty good argument for that. I wouldn't buy it now, but I definitely keep an eye on it. I think we're going to start to see higher highs. And the only thing really that you need to do for energy stocks is just make sure you know where you are within that ever receding number of days before we get the earnings, and work that 642. So for sure. Oh, we got the first no on the 12. Okay, good to know. I like the other side of the argument. I appreciate that. And the 13 should be coming out, tomorrow, right? I hear you. Okay, Pfizer. Do we have hey there, Mike. Do we have a flag on Pfizer? Now, I'm not a fan of a lot of chart patterns. What I'm a fan of is drawing all the different support, resistance, lines, and levels, stepping back, and then seeing if there are any patterns to be gleaned from that. Even if I did see a pattern, which I don't, doesn't mean it's not there. I just don't see it. I don't see it as something that's actionable for me. We've got earnings right around the bend, so that's going to really pretty much put the kibosh. Really interesting point of control, great volume ledge, going right into earnings, double green. I mean, my gosh, that's a gorgeous looking setup for a potential long. So the bet that you're making, which is fairly binary, is do we see earnings send Pfizer higher? And that is a tricky one. That's where this close to earnings, you're going to want to probably, I would think the focus ideally should be more on the increased IV that you'll be seeing in this market right now, collecting some premium in this environment and making probably a mild bullish bet, but also emphasizing credit collection, not directional debit. All right. So thanks for the question. Yeah, the flip zone when support becomes resistance. Yeah, Stephen, that's a great way to phrase it. I like that a lot. Remember, chart patterns, chart analysis 101 says what was once resistance becomes support, and what was once support becomes resistance. And I look at it as levels, say in a multi-story building. What is one person's floor is another person's ceiling. And I think when you keep that in mind, it's something you can look at. Let's see, you bought the new iPad Pro, or you're going to buy the new iPad Pro. I've been eyeballing one of those, although I need another piece of another computer, another piece of gadgetry in my home, like I need a hole in the head. But I've been eyeballing it too with the Pro, the pen, and that keyboard setup instead of another laptop. Very tempting. Although I do love my Surface Book. I will say I do love my Surface. So I don't know that the iPad would replace that, but yeah, pretty tempting. I agree. I've been eyeballing one of those as well. Okay, let's see. Next up is, I saw the battery life between the 11 and 12 was the same, 20 hours. Yeah, I thought it was the same in Apple's specs. Again, really interesting Apple earnings yesterday, and what kind of mood that's going to help. Look, we have Amazon coming up. That's today. But you look at Facebook, Apple, Microsoft. We have a. I don't know that Amazon's going to ruin this party, but we do have Amazon today. All right. So next question is the general bias still an uptrend? Looking at RTY and NQ. Okay, great question. However, I can look generally at risk appetite in equities, and I think that would be clearly still bullish, courtesy of the Fed. However, as traders, we have to be a lot more granular. We have to be a lot more specific about where specifically we're going to deploy our capital. So to compare, say, the NAS, whether that be QQQ or NQ, to compare that to Russell, IWM, all right, is not really apples and apples. It's more like apples and kumquats. The idea that the Russell is going to play catch up, small cap, probably true. Probably true. I think the Russell got a little bit of a boost for a brief period of time when the US dollar, was heading higher. But generally speaking, small cap is lagging. If you like the Russell, let me introduce you to regional banks, KRE. I like the structure of the KRE a little bit better than the Russell. Russell is quite heavily weighted. Well, look, I shouldn't say that. Russell has equal weighting amongst most of the sectors. It's not a high concentration weighted index like the NAS, the Dow, the S&P. However, one of the things that you'll find in the Russell is a lot of regional banks. I like the KRE better than I like the IWM, but generally speaking, if the tide is going to start to move higher, even a boat with a slightly malfunctioning bilge pump, right, is going to eventually, my boaters out there, a little boating analogy, we're going to see probably the Russell play catch up, but it's not my favorite. It's not my favorite. It is a laggard. And when you take a look at the JT multi-trend here at the bottom of the chart, it's still yellow. It's still yellow. I don't want to short it, but I can't say that it's my favorite in terms of structure. But if something's going to play catch up, and if the market's going to look around for what's not punching up to higher highs, and you might see a little bit of bargain hunting, look KRE, look IWM. But no, Russell is not in an uptrend, but will likely benefit from the high tide in equities. NASDAQ is, yes, NASDAQ is in an uptrend. Any thoughts on buying Microsoft? So Microsoft was sort of, right, on earnings. And I kind of love that because, well, we got a double green on Microsoft. And all we were waiting for the blue lights to start spinning and giving us a nice blue light special. And there you go, Yahtzee, there it is. So now the question is a couple things. You can do a couple things here. Number one, we definitely want to be bullish, double green, right? So now the question is simply, well, where's a reasonable place to buy? I like starting my buying window based on Fibonacci around the 38.2. I like to start my buying window for a pullback at the wave. So these are some of the things that I'd like to see. I'm kind of really greedy when it comes to the bargains that I want, either by way of the cost of the option that I'm buying or the level from which the trigger for the buy will occur. So yeah, 251 is very tempting for me. Anything in front of that will probably be a little aggro. Clearly with the NAS punching up the way it is, I'm looking at the NAS on my other screen here. Clearly with the NAS punching up the way it is, I'm not looking for this market to head much lower. So yeah, I would like to pick up some Microsoft here because again, Microsoft is heavily weighted within the XLK, it and Apple, and it's heavily weighted within the QQQ. And if those two markets head higher, Microsoft's going to pretty much have no choice because that's the direction of the flow. And that's going to be pretty bullish for Microsoft. So yeah, I like Microsoft in terms of that type of opportunity. All right, gang. And just like that, we're going to have to end our Charts and Coffee show. But as always, thank you so much for joining us. I hope the conversation continues to add to things you can look for, look at, and the process by which you prioritize structure. Gang, find the trends, buy the pullbacks. We need to buy the freaking dips shirts made because that's the mantra. How to buy the dip? Step one, find the trend. Step two, play the retracement. I mean, I'm not trying to oversimplify. I've just described 30 years of really my trading, prioritizing the trend. Be a trend follower. Whether you like momentum breakouts or whether you like exhaustion, you're going to find double green markets are going to benefit you the most. Okay, gang? All right. Have a great one. As always, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Same time, same station. Be good to each other, gang.